Hello everyone, welcome back to Team Fishing for Life. I'm Denny, and today I'm going to be going over my very favorite crankbait to use, at least in these Kansas lakes and Ozark lakes that we fish. So before I get into that, I just want to say thank you to Rob's Auto Service. They're our sponsoring our video tonight. So Rob's Auto Service is there in Olathe, Kansas. If you need anything as far as service related for your automobile, he's a good guy. He's a great mechanic. He's been a friend of mine since I was a little kid, and they do a great job over there. So just check them out if you need any service done on your vehicle. Rob's Auto there in Olathe. So today I'm going to be going over, as I mentioned before, my favorite crankbait for the Ozarks, for these Kansas lakes we fish a lot of. We've used this bait now for, gosh, 4, 5, 6 years, something like that, maybe a little longer than that. And again, it's not a secret bait. But it's going to kind of go over where we use it and where we've had the most success for it. This bait, actually, we've won several tournaments with this bait, gotten the big fish of those tournaments. Myself and the boys in the Kansas Bass Nation have caught winning fish, 5-pounders. They won the Palm de Terre tournament on this bait right here in my hand. They won the big bass and didn't quite win the tournament. They got third in big bass at Melbourne last year on this tournament, or on this bait as well in their tournament. And then I've won a couple tournaments on it as well. But this bait is the Spro Rock Crawler. As you can see by the packaging there, I haven't used this one quite yet. If you look at that color, this one's one of my favorite colors. We have a couple different ones, but this has got kind of a reddish hue to them. It's a translucent color. I found this bait, first of all, it excels whether it's dirty or clear water. It doesn't matter, which is awesome with a crankbait. Especially these translucent colors work really great in the clear water. We generally use a little darker, or more of a darker finish or darker color, like dark blue or dark brown, black and blue type colors in the dirtier water. But yeah, this bait right here, consistently, I don't care if it's summer, or if it's spring, if it's cold water. Anything basically above the 50-degree mark, maybe even lower than that, but anything above 50 degrees, we're going to throw this bait. Especially from my perspective in our tournaments, especially excels in the early spring and then the late fall, when those bass are setting up on those points, those rocky points before they're going back into spawn. Those rocky secondary points with this bait, it's hard to beat it. It just is. I don't care if you're Table Rock, if you're Stockton, Melbourne, Palm, this is going to pull out the bigger fish. And as you can tell by the package, it says it goes 9 to 14 feet. This is called a rock crawler, and this is the 55 version. That's a 9 to 4 feet version. They also have a couple different options that go a little shallower. I think they have a deep diver now as well. I have not used that yet, and we generally don't use a shallow one. This 9 to 14 feet one covers about everything we need. And when it says 9 to 14 feet, just for you newer guys, that doesn't mean you need to fish that depth of water. That means that's how deep it goes. With any type of crankbait, especially this one, you want it to actually fish shallower than the depth that's on here. You want this bait grinding into those rocks. It's supposed to imitate a crawdad, crawfish, however you want to say it, and you're getting a reaction bite off of those fish. You're grinding it down those rocks, and it's hitting a rock and glancing off, and it looks erratic, and it looks like something's trying to flee. And that's where those big bass, largemouth, smallmouth, spotted bass, they'll all eat it. So you want to throw it shallower than deeper. And again, where I would focus on in the springtime is I would go to windblown rocky points where they have any type of rock, but especially the big flatter chunk rocks, to where you can just keep grinding on those rocks. And by the end of the day of using this, you should see on your little bill here, you should see it all scarred up and all beat up. That means you're doing the right thing. I'm going to take it out here and show you a little close what it has and why I like it so much. Like I said, the main reason I like it is it catches fish. That's obviously any bait I'm going to show you is because we won tournaments off of it, or we've caught giants on it. Like this particular color, I'll tell you the exact color name on the back here. It's called the Red River Craw, and this is one of my favorite colors. It's got a purple hue to it, kind of greenish, kind of green-brown back, translucent. You can kind of see through it. It's got a little purple on there. It's got an orange belly, so you got a couple different colors going on there, but you can see it's got treble hooks on it. I know a lot of guys will change the hooks out. These are a little smaller hooks on here. I probably prefer a little bigger hook, but we really haven't had a lot of problems with these hooks, so we generally just fish it right out of the package. But this particular color works really well in that clear water. Table Rock Lake, I've done really well in the springtime grinding this off the rocks. We've also done well, like I said, at Melbourne with this specific color. Palme de Terre as well with a specific color. It's caught us a lot of bigger fish. Stockton, the same thing. I mean, Table Rock, you can name pretty much any lake of the Ozarks. If you throw this bait in the springtime or in the fall, you're going to find what you need as far as bigger fish. So it generally gets it can get a small bite, but generally gets a bigger bite for sure with this lure. So just wanted to show you that bait, how we throw it. And you know I'm a spinning rod guy, but I throw this on a bait caster. I throw it on a slightly slower retrieve, and I throw it on basically, you try to get a parabolic rod, a medium action rod where it has some, parabolic bend to it, towards a moderate action rod, not a fast action, but a moderate, where it bends all the way down. And that's going to keep those fish penned up. The same thing as we always use as far as line's concerned. We're always using 12-pound test line. We're using same thing, Sunline Sniper, like we always say. So Sunline Sniper 12-pound is going to be what we're going to use for that lure right there. And again, that just line holds up so well, and that's fluorocarbon obviously, so it's clear, can't be seen, and it just you can sensitive, you can feel everything really well. We actually throw this on a SLX Shimano. Thank you, Shimano. Throw on an SLX rod, and it does an excellent job of of holding up and having that parabolic bend. I can't remember the name of the rod exactly. It's an SLX moderate action. I think it might be a glass composite rod. I'm not for sure. I'll have to look at it again. But yeah, it's a great bait to throw springtime, anytime the water's over 50 degrees on secondary points with big rocks, especially a little bit of wind moving in. Highly recommend throwing it for that bigger bite. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'm happy to help. Oh, as far as retrieve, real quick before I finish the video, retrieve wise, it depends on the day, as with any bait. What I personally like to do is I try to be as erratic with my retrieve as possible. I cast it up on the point, I grind it down where I start feeling the rocks, and the second I hit a rock, I literally stop. I'll grind and hit the rock, it'll go down, it'll hit the rock, it glances off, and I stop for a second. And then I grind it down again, I'll go 1, 2, 3, and kind of stop it, hit a rock again, and then stop it. So I kind of do a start and stop, and then sometimes I just kind of crank, hit a rock, crank, 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 and then crank. I try to do completely erratic. I try not to have a pattern with it, actually. I try to be as erratic with my cranks and long and short as possible. And it tends to work for me. So I don't really have a constant crank. I mean, can you throw it out there and just reel and crank and get a fish? Probably so. But my experience is the erraticness of my retrieve is what makes it really, really nice. And also with this, on the hook set again, with that parabolic rod with a more moderate action rod, you want something really flexible. When you hook them, you make sure your drag is fairly loose to where they're going to not just pull it right out, but you're also not just trying to horse those fish in. You're going to slowly bring those fish in with that crankbait with those treble hooks on there. You're not trying to horse them to the boat. In fact, let them get a lot of their spunk and a lot of their fight out farther away from the boat. The closer you get to the boat, if that fish is still green, meaning he's still not fought out, you have a more likely chance of losing that fish. That's one thing a lot of people don't do. They try to get them up in the net. And you can do that if you feel like you can get them up in there, but with that more sensitive rod and those treble hooks, generally speaking, you're going to lose fish when you're trying to get them up too early. I mean, there's no rush. Once you hook them, make sure there's not brush or anything between you and them. But if there's nothing between you, let them fight themselves out a little farther away from the boat. Let them get tired. And that by the time you get that fish closer to the boat, they're kind of tuckered out a little bit, and you're going to be a lot easier to net them. You're going to not lose near as many fish. I see a lot of people make the mistake of just trying to horse those fish in, and you're going to lose fish that way. They're too green. They shake those heads. Those big bass shake their head. They're going to flip those treble hooks out a lot of times. So keep them worn out before you ever have to try to net them. So you don't get them within 10 foot of the boat and then start letting them fight. Let them start fighting out there. Let them start fighting way out there if you can. Let them get all tired out and then bring them close to the boat and try to net them. That's just one little tip I'll give you that will save you in the long run for sure. So love this bait, rock crawler. I plan on throwing it a whole bunch again this year, and we'll give you any type of advice that we find out coming up later this year too when we start fishing in the spring again. We'll be fishing Grand Lake and a lot of the ones in the spring where this bait's going to be a player for sure. So love this Pro rock crawler. I hope you guys try it out. If you haven't tried it already, I think you will really enjoy it. It's a great way to catch bigger fish, especially in the spring and the late fall. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.